Hello, and welcome to episode 22 of Women in Manufacturing's Hear Her Story podcast. My name is Allison Graylis, and I'm the president and founder of the Women in Manufacturing Association and Education Foundation. As your host, it is my extreme pleasure to introduce you to our guest for this episode, Tessa Myers. Tessa is the Senior Vice President of Intelligent Devices at Rockwell Automation, their largest business segment. She joined Rockwell as a sales engineer, working her way up the ladder over her 23 years at the company. During that time, she has traveled the globe, including 2 international stints, with 3 years spent in Singapore and 2 years in Canada, before ultimately finding her roots in Milwaukee. Welcome, Tessa.
Thanks, Allison. Great to be here.
Thanks so much for being a part of our Hear Her Story podcast. So we're thrilled to have you on this episode and as well to share your story and your journey. And as we typically like to start in our episodes, we like to kind of hear about your early start as an individual and where you grew up, early influences, a little bit about your family, and then we'll get into then your later jump into obviously professional work.
Well, thanks again for having me. And I grew up in Indiana. So grew up in Indiana, just south of Indianapolis. Grew up in a family of 2 brothers. So my parents and 2 brothers, the middle of the 3. So as the only girl in the middle, I had a special place in the family. I really got interested in manufacturing and science early. When I was growing up, we started to get the first video games and computers coming into the house. So it was quite a long time ago that as I was growing up, and I was really became quite interested in technology and in science. Always loved math and science in school. Played sports so throughout growing up. So I played basketball, softball, loved being a part of a team and kind of the physical, exercise and being outside. I had jobs. As soon as I could, I get a job as I was growing up. I started to have jobs outside of the house. And so I really enjoyed that independence that brought me and working with other people. And as I was graduating from high school and I was looking at, what to do next and where I wanted to go to school and what I wanted to study, I knew that math and science were what I would want to focus on. And I had a teacher in school that said, Tessa, with your love of math, of science, and problem solving, I think engineering would be a really great area for you to focus on. And so it was incredible advice, and I followed it, and I pursued a degree in industrial engineering at Purdue University. And so I graduated from Purdue and joined Rockwell right out of college. So that's where I've been at for the last 23, 24 years.
Wow, that's a long career at a company. And I think it's unique, our generation, which I have a feeling we're probably similar generations. I think a lot more frequently we stick the course and stay with a single employer, whereas definitely you see some differences present day with people of younger generations, not necessarily staying 20 plus years at companies and organizations. Hopefully it becomes a new trend again for people to stay, especially when companies are becoming more inclusive and more flexible and a bit more progressive for people.
I think it does feel like we might be unique to have built a career in one organization over time. Just this week, I met a number of women at an industrial company who had spent their career there. And I think what was consistent across all of our experiences is I may have been with the same company for 24 years, but I feel like I've had multiple careers while I've been here. So I've worked in different parts of the business, lived all around the world, worked with different teams. And I think that is a part of what helps retain and why I've stayed at the same company. Great people, great culture, and the opportunity to do so many different things. And that was pretty consistent with the women that I met, as they've worked in all parts of the organization, from quality to manufacturing to supply chain to field service. And so they've been given so many different opportunities to learn and grow. And I think that's a part of why I've been here for so long as well.
When you entered your career in manufacturing at Rockwell, more than 20 years ago, did you have a plan, or did you know, hey, this is what I wanted, or this is what I aspire to rise to, or these new opportunities that came along the way helped steer you to a specific path or roadway?
What attracted me to Rockwell at the time, I had an opportunity to visit the company, and across many of our different functions, we have early career development programs. So we hire university graduates, different parts of the business, and they go through a training program. They're assigned to different parts of the organization. They work with a lot of different teams. And it's a skill building opportunity as well as a learning and leadership development opportunity. And so when I visited the organization, I felt a connection to the culture and the people. There was something special about how the organization felt when I was there. I loved that we were at this intersection of manufacturing. I love how things are made. I really wanted to be a part of manufacturing, but I wasn't sure that I wanted to be in a plant each and every day. And Rockwell and what we do is at this really cool intersection of helping manufacturing companies with technology and expertise better operate their plants and automate, their processes. And so that felt really cool that I could still be in manufacturing. I could work with a lot of different manufacturing companies and processes, but also bring in that technology piece. I didn't have a plan when I started. I think I needed a job, and the company felt really, really great, and the work seemed interesting, but I didn't have a specific pathway. And I would say my career has taken me to places that I would have never expected to go. But the approach my plan towards my career has been, I want to work with great people. I want to work on interesting things. I want to be in a job that challenges me and stretches me. I didn't want to feel comfortable or complacent in a role. And I would see all of the leadership opportunities that existed in the company. And I just wanted to be in a position to make a big impact and to have the skills and experiences that would keep the possibilities open for me. I didn't want to be in a position where I wanted a role that was leading a large team or a large part of the organization and not have the experience, not to have built the skills and experience that would be required in order to have that type of role. And so I think I've always known that leading people and leading an organization was my aspiration. I wasn't 100% on every particular step and every specific job that would get me there. But I was open to opportunities and open to take risks to do different things. I wanted to build the broadest skill and experience that I could, so that as opportunities presented themselves, I was in a good position to do them because I built a broad background of experience that could help me.
So you mentioned impact and an aspiration that you knew you want to lead and lead teams and people. So at least I have found over the course of my career, leading people is probably part of the toughest job or one of the toughest pieces of the job. What have been some lessons learned as you've led teams and led people? And are there any specific impacts that you have that have been most memorable in your leadership journey?
Yeah, I think you learn pretty quickly when you move into a role that's leading and managing others. One, that your work now becomes enabling and empowering them because you can't do the work of an entire team yourself. And so that's job number one, is engaging, inspiring, and empowering the team of people that you work with so that they not only can do incredible work, but they are on a path to achieve what they want in their careers. In my early time as a leader, you start to learn, you take on kind of the burden of the team, right? And what's working well, what's not working well, where people are in their careers and in their work, and you somewhat take on the fears and the hopes of the organization around you. And I think I learned that the most important thing being a leader or a manager is you've got to be human. You have to have empathy for the people that you're working with and be focused on, and really prioritizing what you can do to enable them, break down barriers, empower them to get the work done. That's your most important job as a leader. You got to make results and you've got to deliver to the expectations of the role and what the team needs to accomplish. But you accomplish that by making sure people have the right tools and skills and support in order to get the work done. As I've led larger and larger teams over the years, I think what's the important task of the leader is creating the vision for what the organization can and should accomplish. I think inspiration generates more results than like fear or control. And I think a compelling vision and helping all of the team understand how what they do aligns and creates the possibility for that vision to be realized is really important. I think then translating that vision and strategy to a set of meaningful but doable objectives and making sure that people are aligned to those is really important. And then, really standing back and letting the team go and work to pursue those, but be there to support, to remove obstacles that might be in the team's way and make sure that the systems, processes, tools, technology are all there for people to be successful.
Great leadership guidance and lessons learned.
Allison, you asked me about impact. I think I will leave my career at the end of it. And, I've had a lot of fun and we've achieved a lot of results. But I think the thing that I will be most proud of and the biggest impact is where I see teams who have achieved more than they maybe thought they could, and just the joy and energy that exists when that happens. And the people that I've been able to coach, mentor, lead, and I love seeing all the things that they're accomplishing in their roles. And I think that's the biggest impact that I'll have is, helping others to become great leaders and seeing how they've progressed and achieved in their careers and see them giving that back, to people as well. I think that's the impact that I'll be most proud of.
So true. When we think about when we walk away from careers or professional life someday, I was just talking to someone who just recently retires as of a week from now. It's the people impact that I think is so long lasting. Not did you hit a metric? Did you have a great quarter? Did you hit record profitability? But it's those people that you've helped them support their families. You've helped them become a leader in their own right. Those life-changing impacts are so meaningful. And I think the ones that will stay with us well beyond our careers when we're hopefully all enjoying some great retirement.
Yeah.
So as you talk about some of those opportunities, you mentioned different places to where you were able to rise in the organization or have these almost little mini experiences within your career at the same company. When you went to Singapore, when you had some of these overseas assignments, what were those like and how did those impact or change how you work and your trajectory at Rockwell?
I think they were really impactful experiences for me. On the personal side, it was an incredible opportunity for my family, particularly our time that we spent in Singapore. We were living in a culture that was not our own culture. And so every day was an experience and learning something new. We were a part of a very international community. So my children were learning with and playing with kids from all around the world, which was an incredible experience. We were able to experience and travel in a part of the world that would be very difficult otherwise. And so being based in Singapore, we had the opportunity to travel and experience the culture and the environment in so many different countries, which really was an experience that was incredibly unique. And I think as a family unit, we became closer because you're living 24 hours away by flight from any other family members. And that was tough. And you would, miss them. But I think the four of us, I'm married and I have two sons. I think the four of us became incredibly close in the process. And so it was a great family experience. On the professional side, I work as a part of a US-based global company. And it's difficult to understand the experience of our team members that aren't in the home country of the company until you've really been there and experienced it with them. So not only did I learn more about a culture that I wasn't born into, that important parts of our organization are a part of, I feel like I became a little more culturally sensitive, listening, learning. You have to try a little bit harder to understand the intent and the background and the perspective when you're working with people who have grown in a different way and have had different experiences. And I think that's a really important skill and experience to have had, to really understand I got to lean in to learn and listen a little bit harder so that I can really understand. And then I think just experiencing what it's like to be a part of a big global company where the mass or center of the universe is in a different country and in a very different time zone, I think has just made me more sensitive and conscious to that. And I think has really made me a more inclusive leader to understand, all the things that you have to think about in terms of culture and collaboration when you're working in a global environment that I don't think I would have gotten there if I hadn't had that experience myself.
It sounds like lots of rewards having had that experience, both for your family personally and yourself professionally. And I've heard that many times from women who have traveled abroad from their positions. That perspective was forever changed for their global teams. They hadn't been there. They didn't realize this sometimes disconnect or sometimes that misunderstanding of facilities overseas. So it sounds like lots of rewards for having done that. And what a great experience for your family and kids to have experience living that other culture.
With nearly a century of safety experience, EMC Insurance Companies knows how to help manufacturers like you prevent accidents and costly losses. That's because we invest heavily in loss control services and resources, which helps you turn loss control into cost control. At EMC, we go beyond the basic loss control survey. Our experienced field teams, engineers, safety consultants, and industrial hygiene professionals work with you to create custom workplace safety plans for your manufacturing business. We know that creating and maintaining a safe workplace is an around-the-clock effort. To help keep safety top of mind and at your fingertips, we provide a wide variety of online tools and on-demand trainings available whenever you need them. So what are you waiting for? Contact your local independent insurance agent today, or visit emcins.com and click Loss Control to find out how EMC Insurance Companies can help you better protect your manufacturing business.
So you mentioned earlier a little bit about mentoring, and we often talk to women and just generally people in industry about that impact of mentoring. So having, whether it be a formal or informal mentor, the importance of that, and then as well that importance secondarily, and sometimes even more importantly, of sponsoring and advocacy. So while it's great to have people that you can converse with and meet with regularly, it's also equally, if not more important, to have those people that are speaking up for you in rooms and in meetings and vetting your name as a top candidate for positions or advancements. So what has your mentoring experience been like? How has it impacted your career professionally? And then as well, have you had any personal experiences on the advocacy front for others?
I agree with you 100%. I think having relationships with mentors who've had experiences that you're going through and have the benefit of, being able to reflect back on that experience and what the outcomes in the future can look like, I think is really helpful. But you've got to have advocates. And I think mentors who can be people who can play both roles are fantastic, right? Because you're getting good learning and feedback and sharing, but you have someone who's got a seat at the table and they can see around corners and they know where opportunities exist. I've had a lot of experience having really strong advocates, and I think that's been really important part of my career journey and my experience of working, in all of the different roles that I've had. And I think that the advocates came to me in different ways. Some were my direct leader, the person I was working for, who gave me coaching and advice, but was seeking opportunities for me, took the opportunity to share the good work that I was doing with others, and was on the lookout to connect me to opportunities. And so I think managers can play a really important role. And I think we as women leaders need to play that role for others. And you want to seek out working for people that have a track record of doing that. I also had advocates that I built along the way, and I didn't go into it thinking I'm going to make this person an advocate for me, but I gravitated towards people who I felt like could help me get my work done. And I think advocates aren't just about where you get in your career, but also I've got work to do. I need support of the organization. I need somebody who has a seat at the table that can influence others so we can do the right things and it can help progress the work that we're doing. And so I sought people who were advocates so that I could progress the work. And oftentimes they became advocates for me as an individual because we had the opportunity and experience of working together, and they understood my values, my commitment, my capabilities. And we started the relationship because I really needed support to get to progress an idea or to progress the work. And it turned into an advocacy for helping me when there were career opportunities along the way. And I don't think I would have gotten to where I am. Certainly, I worked hard, I took opportunities, and I've invested in the work that I'm doing and have gotten great results. But I think the advocates have been fundamental at the right time, in the critical times where an opportunity existed. I think there was always somebody there that was in partnership supporting me and giving me advice, but also having a seat at the table as well. When I think about, I get the question a lot, like, how do I create advocates? And I said earlier, I think a really great way to do that is building relationships and leveraging people as you're getting the work done. But I think it's important when you join an organization that you see that that's taking place. I think it's like a way to assess, is this company right for me or not? Can I be successful here? Is understanding what the culture is around sponsoring and advocating for others, and asking people that you're talking with at the company, are there examples of that? How do you do that? And what could I expect in this company of advocacy and support? Because I think I also have had the experience at Rockwell where that's common, and leaders do advocate and engage and invest in people as they're growing their careers. And so I think you've got to be in an environment where that is, you want to find a company that has an environment where that's typical rather than an exception.
That's great advice. I think, as people are looking for those future opportunities to assess that in a new position or at a new company, is this the type of culture that supports advocacy and supports, that opportunity for people to rise from referral and to have that type of network. And I think I experienced similarly to you, that same power of advocacy. And it's so, so valuable and so important. And I talk to young people all the time about that importance of having relationships, spending time making relationships. So often young professionals think, I'm just going to work really hard and my hard work is going to get noticed. And through that, they're going to promote me. I'm going to get these future opportunities. And it's like, wow, you need to really be not only working hard, but making sure that you're making those really important corporate and professional connections that they think of you when they're talking about this new assignment or this new position or this new team that's being structured. You have to come to mind. And so you have to be one of those people that's remembered. And so it's making the genuine relationships with others, especially those, as you said, Tessa, that have a seat at the table, that have influence. It's so very important. And sometimes it's tough to make time to kind of foster those relationships, but it's definitely time well spent for the future of your career.
Absolutely. And hard work is a table stake. That's got to be there, but people have to know about it, right? And have to have visibility to it. And I think you're exactly right. Building relationships and having a network is really important to success. And I found the best approach to that is not relationship building and networking just for the sake of relationships and networks or just to progress your career. I've found that people who spend time with me, who are really focused on how do we make the organization better, and here's the work I'm working on, and here's how I think could help you, leave the longest lasting impression for me. And that's been my experience as well, where I've engaged and collaborated with people across the organization just so we can make things happen and progress the work. That's turned into the most valuable relationships that I've had, rather than just networking for the sake of networking.
Right. No, I agree. So as we look at kind of the future for women in industry, and when you're looking at your own organization and lessons learned along the way as you've risen in your career, what is some advice that you would give for, our listeners and women who are aspiring to rise to your same level or similar position of influence? at their own organizations or companies or in this
I think
industry? What
beyond
advice would you
what
give
we've
them?
already talked about in terms of advocacy and relationship building, I think now is an incredible time for women leaders. If you think about everything that we've experienced over the last few years and how much the employee experience has changed, and this strong focus on the kind of lack of connection and the focus of employees on wellness in the workplace. I think women, this is a unique time where I think the skills of listening and empathy and genuine care for the people that you work with, work around you, work for you is so important. And I think that women, not to over stereotype us, but I think demonstrate a level of empathy and connectedness that's really necessary for any organization today and moving forward. And so I think we need more women leaders because we bring a capability that I think is really necessary in the world of work. I think as I look back across my career, one piece of advice that I would have is just a willingness to take risks. There have been points of transition in my career where I've had to move to a new location, or I was taking on a role that was something new or undefined, moving into a space where I had less experience, that success wasn't guaranteed. And I think those were pivotal moments in my career. And so I think an openness of, if a job doesn't worry you, if you don't feel like it's going to stretch you, it may not be worth it, because I think those are the times that you really grow. And so I think an openness to taking some risk, being open to the potential of failure, but the possibility of greatness, I think is something that I would say, to women who really.
That's great advice. You have to be a little scared, I think, or it's got to scare you a little bit, that next jump or leap or position, but
feeling
kind of a good
pit
fear.
Of your stomach. Yeah, that feeling in the pit of your stomach is a good thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, as we usually close our conversations with our guests on Hear Her Story, we usually do some kind of more rapid fire questions with individuals. And the first, because especially of your role being in intelligent devices, and I'm sure lots of new technology, when you look at innovation, is there any one particular innovation piece or part that you're most excited about?
There are so many things I'm excited about. It's hard to pick just one. I really am excited about as devices become more intelligent, and that's a focus area for us. How do we put more smarts, more connectivity, more data in our devices as we evolve them and we innovate in the portfolio? I'm really excited about the potential that brings to the focus around sustainability for every company that's out there. I think what it means to be a responsible industrial company is changing, and stakeholder expectations from employees to customers to even investors are changing. And so I'm really excited about, now we've got the tools and the technology to produce a lot of data that can really help us as we leverage that drive reduction of waste, reduction of energy, more efficiency, greater levels of safety. And so I think that's one of the things I'm most excited about.
And also, next question, your favorite quote. Do you have a favorite quote that you live by or that personally inspires you?
I don't think this is a quote, but my mantra for this last year has been enjoy the ride. And so I have a little sign in my office. I have it in different places around, but it was really just I was a reminder for me of, you may face challenges along the way, but enjoy it. Enjoy life, your work, your family. Keep that in perspective.
And your favorite book?
I love the book Team of Rivals. I love history, so typically, if I'm reading nonfiction, and I think it's such a great story about Abraham Lincoln, his leadership, his cabinet, and just that time in history as well.
Team of Rivals, so you'll have to check it out. And where was the last place that you traveled?
For fun, I spent the weekend in Chicago with all of my girlfriends that I graduated university with. So we do a trip every year. And for work, I just recently came back this week from San Diego.
I just had the same experience. I was just in Charleston with my high school girlfriends a week ago, and that fills your bucket, as we kept saying. We're like, okay, we all feel like we were restored and replenished to go back to regular life.
We were doing it once a year, and then we were like, this is so fun, maybe twice a year.
Yeah.
So, but it's an energizing and kind of soul feeding experience to be with close friends, for sure.
Definitely. And what goals have you set for yourself for the remainder of the year?
Well, get through the holidays would be the goal. We start our fiscal year in October, so we're kind of a few months into the year. But I've got a couple of things that I'm focused on. One is really around our people in the organization and making sure that we're focused on how do we create a connected organization so that our team feels connected to the work that we do, the impact that they have with our customers in the world, and that they're connected to each other and their managers with trusting and meaningful relationships, and that they're connected to a career and they're growing and experiencing in the ways that are important to them as they think about their careers. That's my number one objective for the coming year.
And I think I already touched upon her a little bit, had asked you your advice for future generations, but something that's kind of a tangent question to that, or a related question, is you mentioned you as a young girl being interested in STEM and math and science and having this early influence educator who really encouraged you to look at engineering. If you're talking to a young girl in high school or college who had that same similar interest in math and science, what would be advice you might give them?
For someone earlier, I would encourage them to be open to the possibilities, and certainly would encourage them to pursue, if that's an interest area and an area of strength for them, that they should pursue it. And there's so many different ways you can take skills in science and technology and engineering and math. And the career, I always tell people, an engineering career can take you so many places. Like, you may not end up being an engineer, but skills you learn around problem solving and teamwork and can benefit you in so many different ways and in so many different areas, that I would encourage them to be open to the possibilities. And if it's something that they love and they're great at it, pursue it.
Great advice. Well, it has been a delight to talk to you today, and I greatly appreciate you sharing your story as to how you've kind of entered manufacturing, how you've risen in manufacturing. And again, we just appreciate you being part of the conversation and inspiring others. So thanks so much, Tessa.
Allison, thanks so much for having me, and thanks for all that you do for women in manufacturing as well.
Thank you for listening to Hear Her Story, a podcast produced by the Women in Manufacturing Association. Be sure to share, review, and subscribe to Hear Her Story on Apple, Google, Spotify, or wherever you like to listen.